All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, you guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Shantae Show. We back at it again. I got two very special guests with me today. I got up and coming singer, songwriter, both up and coming singer, songwriter, content creators, Micah and Ivana. Welcome to the Shantae Show, y'all. I appreciate y'all coming by.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
Of
you for having
course, of
us.
course. So, in my show, the way I kick it off every single time, I start off with a little motivation.
Okay.
So, I'm gonna actually let you guys kick it off. So, what you got? What you got for my listeners?
Motivation.
Yeah,
So,
just a little tidbit.
Motivation.
Motivation.
That was cracking me up.
Motivation.
But I think that I'm just gonna go really old school.
Okay.
With nothing beats a failure but a try.
I love that.
I think that a lot of people have forgot about that mantra. It's an old one, but it's a very good one. And I think sometimes we get so focused on picking people apart. Oh, what are you doing with? At least they tried.
Yes.
At least they put in the effort. At least they tried. Whether it was a failure or not, we get to watch them in real time, like perfect their craft, hone their skills, build their network, and evolve. I
Yes.
love an underdog story.
Yes, 1,000,000%. I mean, I'm gonna have you turn the mic just a little bit so it's not in your face all the way.
Right here?
The little stand, just move it a little bit out your face.
Put this down on the floor.
Yeah, there we go.
Sponsoring.
Okay, so
Sponsoring you either.
yeah, I totally agree with that. I love that. Nothing beats a fail but a try. And how will you know if you don't even at least try?
Exactly, because I've seen a case of so many people, they get older in their life and they have so much like bitterness or resentment towards things that they just were too paralyzed with fear to even try.
Yeah.
So it's like when you were younger, able-bodied, or any age, if you did not take the initiative to even try, research anything, how you know how it could have panned out? You don't know.
That's true. And people gonna talk about you either way.
Exactly. That part.
Yeah, that part.
What you got, Ivana?
I would say I second what she said. Like, if you don't try, then you won't be able to see the light of it. But also have fun. A lot of people are so disciplined on what they want to do to the end goals, but it's okay to be as a test dummy and to try things in a different way and think out of the box, emancipate yourself from what they say for the standards. So if you have to post on content every single day and being consistent, because a lot of people, they forget that too. They're really entitled nowadays and they feel like they should get something and they get upset at other people when they got their success, when they got out of the mud. So it's just like, I would say focus, stay disciplined, think out of the box, but also have fun and be grateful even for the smallest things, because life is so rich and it's not promised of what can happen tomorrow. So even if you have a success of maybe 100 views on your podcast or maybe 9 views on your podcast, somebody watched that could probably turn to 9 million, 9 billion, 9,000, maybe like a whole arena. Because you imagine that as one person in a room where it's 9 people, then you have 200 people in this room, then 2,000, and then more and more. So if you think about it in that way, and you don't think, oh man, I only have 2,000 followers on my stuff, that's a lot of people.
It is. In a room. It is.
So don't let it be like where you say, oh, this person's just viral, I want to be like them, they have all these edits and stuff like that. They were just consistent every day. So that's all I'll say. Make it as your motivation to have fun, think out of the box, and still motivate yourself for the smallest success and just have really fun with it. So
I really love that. I really love the, be grateful, be happy, stay focused, because it can knock you off your pivot, feeling like, okay, well, I'm not getting there as fast as I want to. And then, social media really have you thinking that everybody is an overnight success, or they'll have you thinking that everybody just got it right the first time. But we got to stay focused on our own goals. And if you're focused on your own goals and you're grateful for, like you said, 9 people watching, imagine if 9 people came up to you one day and said, hey, I fuck with what you're doing. You would be high. 9 people in one day telling you, like, in person, like, hey, I fuck with what you're doing. So the internet is the same way. To have even 9 people being like, oh, I like this. That's impressive. And then, like you said, to 20, to 200, to 9 million, like it can happen. It has happened for people.
And that's
so
the thing. People get invested, like
They do.
really do, even if they've never met you in person. Like I don't know how long you've been like actually on the internet, but I'm pretty sure you have some day ones that's been locked with you from the very beginning. seeing you evolve, and they're like, hey, all you new people here to the Shante show, we've been here. This is you'll catch up. Like,
Yeah.
they're telling them like, oh, this is normal. You'll catch up. Like,
Yes.
So that's just so amazing when you could just see. Like, I remember we used to have a segment that we used to post on YouTube a long time ago called Dreams versus Reality.
Okay.
And I stopped posting them, and people started inboxing me like, "What happened to Dreams versus Reality?
That's
you guys
what's up.
not posting it again?" And I was like, "You were actually like watching it?" And they were like, "Yes, each week I would watch them." And I was like, "Well, I didn't feel like the views were high enough where it was impactful enough." But back to what you said, number doesn't have to be an astronomical number.
Yeah,
there's power in small numbers, and that's the reason why these companies do look for micro and macro influencers, because they know that even though they may not have the biggest reach as your biggest celebrity, they know that there's still influence and power and trust.
Yes,
there's trust
on a smaller scale. Absolutely. So my motivation is from an artist. I was listening to this song on the way here by a rapper called by Hurricane Chris.
Okay.
And the song is called Players Rock. And in the song, he says, you think I'm gonna cry just because I lost you. Every time I lose one, I bounce back with two.
Okay.
And I really like that because it feels like sometimes we lose opportunities, or sometimes something could slip through our fingers, or sometimes something doesn't pan out the way we want it to. But there's no point in crying over spilled milk. That doesn't put it back in the glass. But you can have more things lined up. You know, sometimes it could be, dang, this didn't work out. But you know what? I'm so overwhelmed with everything else I got going on that's okay. So, and I think that's how we have to look at it. Like, I'm not finna sit here and cry. So, for instance, I think I was telling you guys last week, I recently left the dealership I was at, the Hyundai dealership I was at. And for a while, I was like, dang, did I make the right decision? Was that the right thing to do? Like, that was a really good job. I made a lot of money there. But I left because the energy and the vibe was not right. The people I was working with were not necessarily, and it's nothing nasty to say about anybody. It wasn't right for my energy. And I still have it wasn't aligning with my purpose and my goals, and even my integrity.
Oh yeah.
And you know, it is what it is. So, but I had to stand in that decision. But nothing has stopped. So what I had to do was take a couple of days to say, dang, did I make the right decision? Was that the right thing to do? Am I going to be okay? Should I go back and ask for my job back? Absolutely not. I have more things lined up. First of all, there's no way I can even focus on growing my personal platform if I'm there for 12 hours a day. Do I have the ability to still sell cars? Do I have the ability to connect my customer with the right situation? Yes, I do. So I don't need to be there, and I probably would have never even realized that I have the power to still sell cars and still provide the best customer service, and still actually I have more of an ability now to get my customers in the best situation because I'm not under their tutelage. I'm not restricted by their rules. Now I can look at my customer's credit and say, okay, this is what's going to work for you. And I can say, hey, go over here to this dealership, ask for this person. I got everything worked out. They're going to take care of you from here. Or I can say, hey, we're going to go ahead and go with the in-house financing situation and get you set up over here. I got everything worked out. Go ask for this person. So, and I wouldn't have been able to do that and then still come here and, you know, so it's not a matter of crying. It's a matter of saying, okay, this is what happened. Now I need to move forward, and now I need to do this. So I think that plays into what you guys are saying as well, as far as saying stay focused, as far as saying that you have to try. You know, so I didn't fail in quitting my job.
No.
I'm trying something new.
I feel like it's just the beginning. I think
I do too.
Especially like because you're at a sweet spot. Because some people feel like when you're like, oh no, this is not a good thing. It's not moving forward for me. Like, why is it not working so fast? It's snowballing into something that's probably a bigger opportunity and a better blessing that's onto you. And that's such a beautiful thing because you don't know the future of it, but you know it's an exciting future because you're creating that path and you already have supporters that's with you to bring that path forward with you. And that's such an exciting thing because it could probably make you into like a really big creator, like how you see these Twitch streamers are, like these Patreon streamers. Like there's so many people like Alex Earl who's doing their stuff. Zachary Campbell is another one. Kaisenet, who's
Yeah.
another person, and even from in cars and stuff, that can lead into partnerships, that can lead into
Yes.
brands,
You
that
heard
can
that?
lead
If you
into
have a car
endorsements.
company.
So right, help out my sis, give her a card, give her her whole name.
Yes,
New
that's
head-
what I'm talking
new
about.
color, new hairdo.
But yeah,
New money.
absolutely, absolutely. And you know, just we all just have to move forward in what
Mhm.
we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So if you're not even willing to try, if I'm not willing to try and I'm willing to say, you know what, I'm going to give this dealership all of my time and all of my effort.
Yep.
And I don't have any time and effort for myself at the end of the day. When
Mhm.
my life passes by, like you said, at the end of my life, when I'm saying, dang, I wish I would have put more into the Shantae show
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
instead of giving the dealership my all, instead of giving them everything. I wish I would have put more. So this is the time for me to do that. And
Yep.
I can take 6 months, I can take a year and figure things out. And if it doesn't pan out, then I still have the resume to be able to go back to a dealership and say, hey,
Exactly.
listen, I'm a top salesperson. You know, I tried something different, but now I need to come back. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
Because I tried and I stayed focused, and I'm grateful for anything. I'm grateful for those people that comment on my video and watch, and I'm grateful for 200 views.
Yeah.
That's 200 people that watched whatever I put out.
Exactly.
I don't know 200 people in person.
Yeah.
Even if we were to do,
Let's
I
get
like
some water.
math a lot. Even if we were to say like, okay, small numbers, let's look at what $1 per person, or like, okay, $1 times 200 people is $200.
Right.
But then when you start slowly taking that small amount of people and saying, okay, $5, $10, $20 times 200 people, now we're climbing into
Yes.
some serious money. Even if it was just in subscriptions, like monthly subscriptions,
Mhm.
that's not like money to really laugh at. That 200 people are willing to pay you for a subscription monthly, even if
Exactly.
it was $5. You know what I'm saying? So that's somebody's rent somewhere.
Yeah.
You know. So those are just small things that I feel like energetically, when we show that gratitude in life for even the
Yes.
smallest thing, I feel like the universe is like, okay, you're prepared and you're ready for more.
Yes.
By you boomeranging customers to like people at the dealership, even though you're not there, you're getting your money. You're also blessing someone else.
Yes.
You know, you're blessing
Absolutely.
the financial institution. You're also blessing the salesman that's also like, you know, partnering with you on this. So when you put out that good energy and those good intentions into the world, it does bring more back to you because you're being selfless in your actions.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? You're
I
building
love
a
that.
team.
I agree.
You're building a team, yeah.
So Micah, really quick, I do want to just introduce you a little bit more and let people kind of know exactly who you are as an upcoming songwriter, as an upcoming singer and songwriter. So how long have you been singing, and where exactly are you from? Because you're not from Dallas.
No. So I am a newbie to Dallas. I've been in Dallas for going on 2 years now. And I am originally born in Chicago, but my parents are from Belize. So
Okay.
I'm a
'Cause
first
I definitely hear the
generation.
accent.
I'm a first generation American. I was raised between Chicago and Belize. So
Okay.
there's a very different upbringing to be born in one city and then you're raised between two different countries that are totally different in
Right.
culture, language, food. Like Belize and Chicago or states are nothing alike. They're absolutely nothing alike. So
Okay.
to have that culture, and as a minority woman to know my background and where I come from, I absolutely love that because I'm able to like educate people, like, because a lot of people have never heard of Belize. They don't even know where it is.
Really?
I meet so much people that are like, Belize, is that in Africa? I'm like, no.
What?
I'm like, it's in Central America, you know? So it's really, really fun telling them like small facts and trivia about Belize, that it's like the only English speaking country in Central America. Like
Okay.
things like that. It's just so fun that we have our own language and that there's so much mixed culture in Belize, from Mestizo, Maya, Mennonite, Garifuna, Creole. Like there's so much of different culture of people that live there that make up the actual country as far as ethnicities are concerned.
Yes.
So I really love it, and just being able to fuse that culture with my own unique sound.
Yes.
And my own like music sonically, I really do love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you discover your talent, and what made you want to pursue
Okay, so
music?
I have my maternal grandmother. She was a music teacher,
Oh, okay.
So when I was born into a musical family.
Yes, that's what's
So
up.
my maternal grandmother, she had a musical, like a whole school where people would come in and learn woodwind, strings, piano, voice, dance, theater, like the whole thing in
Okay.
Chicago. And so from the time I got old enough to like start to talk and walk and all of that, it was like you're on the piano, you're learning the basics of being a musician. So I went through being a musician from the age of 4 all the way until high school.
Okay.
And that's when I started to branch out into the singing. I had been singing my whole life, but it was never like you're a solo singer or
Okay.
like type of a thing. It was always like with a group. So my grandmother had all of me and my cousins singing together, playing instruments together, and performing together, kind of like the Jacksons.
Yeah, we all have to literally like wake up very early.
We would have to spend the night on her house, over her house, every weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Like it was a thing. And then the summers when school was out, we were there the entire summer.
So were y'all singing for church or just because?
For her school.
For her school.
Oh, okay.
Like we'll have to do like things with like Joffrey Ballet. I don't know if you guys know about that in Chicago. It's like a very known affluent, like top black ballet that's known where they do like the Nutcracker or where they do like Swan Lake and stuff like that. So we would have to go with some of those teachers and learn and then do ensembles for like bigger places or bigger other schools or arenas or things like that to do that. Or we have to sing opera or we have to sing in a choir or we'll have to also do like different things. Like it was just like a lot of stuff.
It was crazy. It was really crazy.
But that's actually amazing because y'all have formal training.
We do.
Classical,
and
like,
I
we weren't allowed to
appreciate
do,
it
like,
because in today's temperament of artistry and musicians, there are not a lot of real musicians in the music industry. Well, I should take that back. I don't want to say it like that. There are not a lot of people that are formally trained.
Yes,
in
agreed.
the music industry is what I'm trying to say.
Especially more so, I would say more so now.
Yeah.
In the 2000s and 2010s and up.
So when I say that, I don't want to see a bunch of stitches on the internet. There are not a lot of real musicians and musicians.
Actually,
and they show every.
Yeah, no, that's not what I mean. I mean like actual artists that are recording artists.
Yeah.
That actually know what key they're singing in. That know music theory and composition or how to play an instrument. A lot of people rely heavily on technology nowadays. Yeah. And if you were to ask them, hey, do you know how to transpose this or what key you're singing, or do you know how to tell your musical director or anybody how to like help you put together your show, they honestly don't know.
What's concert?
Okay.
Like, a lot of people don't. I'm not saying everybody don't.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't. So it's very interesting when you go to a recording studio and people are like, I'm a musician, I do this, and then you're like, oh, there's a MIDI keyboard right there. If you hear in a certain like sequence that you want for the production, go play it, and they're like, I don't know how to play that piano, but I'm a boom,
or if they
like somebody over to you, like and there's nothing wrong with that either, because we have to understand our strengths and our weaknesses to be able to facilitate other people into those roles.
Yeah.
But I would say if you call yourself a musician, I think that carries a heavy weight. Yeah. I think it's one thing to call yourself or to be a singer or a rapper or to be a creator. But I think when you say musician, there is some type of formal training that has to accompany that, so that's amazing. And Ivana, tell me kind of how you decided the same thing. Like, how did you decide that this was something that you wanted to pursue? Because just because you have the talent or because you have the training doesn't mean that this is something that you love and want to pursue.
Yeah, like, because for us, we would have to wake up very early, like she said, because of our grandmother having a school inside of the south side of Chicago. She was originally from Alabama and migrated up to Chicago. And then after that, my father, he had migrated from Belize to Chicago and met my mom, and then had my sister and then me. And then we would do a lot of stuff with our cousins. And some of our cousins actually work inside of the industry right now. They actually just did some stuff with Kanye West. Congratulations to them. Big up to you, doing a great job. Hopefully you see this.
Congratulations. Shout out to y'all.
Big up to you guys. You know who you are. From doing that and having such classical training where you couldn't have like sugars or you couldn't have certain like snacks or things like that, a lot of other cousins from our family dropped out. Like they didn't want to do
everybody dropped out.
And then
our parents dropped out. The cousins dropped out,
Yeah,
except for one other cousin.
one other cousin.
Me and her are like the only ones pursuing music industry.
Yeah,
like
'cause that's what I'm
everyone
trying
else,
to-
they had the
Right.
training, they went to the fine art schools, they did the performances. But once we got to an age where it was like not mandatory anymore, it was like, I'm out of this.
Because once
You
we
can
got
have
like
that.
towards high school, that's when my grandmother would say, okay, you could either do something else or you could stay doing music.
Yeah.
So because of me, I was going to fine art schools from a child and also doing her stuff. And then also she had got signed towards a record label called DJ International. It was like one of the first house labels. I would go a lot with her.
Yeah.
Or sometimes like when I would be inside of my school, because I went to Franklin Fine Arts Center as a kid, and then was Lincoln Park High School was also that I got in for opera, and then I went to Columbia College Chicago for music business and film. So before all of that, just wind that back. Like Mr. Brown, take it back. So she would have to go towards Gallery 37, which was like their. Have you ever seen the movie Fame?
Yeah.
No.
So there was like or Victorious.
Yes.
So it like how the girl had auditioned to get into a separate school even though she was inside of school.
Yeah.
That's what my sister's life was. So she was
Okay.
inside of a fine art school within another fine art school. So she was doing winds and chests in one thing and then acting in another one. And in between, she would pick me up from my fine art school because we had to pick our majors at a young age inside of our fine art school. Like once you hit third grade, if you were in music, you were in music. If you were in vocals, you were in vocals. If you were in piano, you were in piano. If you were in acting, you were doing that. If you were in film, you knew what you were doing, and they will hone in on that. And you have to pick like a second one and practice for like 8 hours. So when we would go to her other thing, she would start moving and making costumes and stuff, and then it intrigued me because she got signed to Ford Modeling at that time.
Okay.
So then after that, they had sent her to another audition, and then she got signed to her label. So I was like, I want to be in a girl group.
Okay.
So then she told me to sing in front of her. She's like, you're not serious. You don't want to do this. You're not serious. You only just saying that because you're used to everybody else doing stuff. I was like, no, I'm serious. I really want to be in a girl group. Went through those girl groups, went through like about like 6 of them, even a co-ed group where we were in that together. It did not work out. So even then from there, I just still like the feeling of performing and writing and how the process went. I just kept on doing it nonstop, from going to different studio sessions to dropping music and sharing it with my friends. Like we would even take like cameras and film our own music videos at times, even when we were traveling back and forth from Belize to Chicago to do that, or even doing different small tours like Guatemala, Mexico City, Jamaica, Panama City, like different stuff like that. And then we would like film it and push it and do little vlog series, like she said. And from there, I just really appreciate it because it's just like, okay, I get to tell a story about my life, but I also get to have a story that connects with other people. So even though some people might be like, oh, it's boring because you have to do rigorous hours, it's really rewarding to see yourself have something. And then somebody say, oh, I know you from this. Yes. I know you from that. Because sometimes, like when we would have to do some shows, I'm going to be honest, they make it seem like artists are glammed and stuff like that. Sometimes they will have $2 in their bank account and buy like McDonald's and share that and make their own customized costumes. Some of those costumes that you see that's like customized, they're piecing it together and making it on their own. And sometimes me and her will have to do that where we would sit down and stitch our own stuff, make up our own sets, record it on a laptop, do it on Adobe, releasing stuff like that. And to me, I still just enjoy the journey because it's just fun. It feels good.
I do want to say this really quickly because I don't know who on your platform has an interest in pursuing music. If you are interested in pursuing music, understand you are going to have a lot of backing.
Yep.
To get into the music game.
Yep.
And whatever you do in music, read your paperwork and contracts. Please read your contracts, because
please know your business too.
You will sign away your name, your image, your likeliness, your royalties, your publishing, your master to somebody that doesn't even believe in you, and that somebody that doesn't even care to really back you financially. They just want to get you into debt.
Yep.
So then you will be indebted to this person, and they'll basically own everything that makes you you, and say because you signed this piece of paper into perpetuity that they own your name, image, likeliness, masters, publishing, etc., etc. And now they can go and build up a bunch of different people that favor you, and you won't see a dollar, and they'll shelf you,
And I've actually heard of I've heard that before, that you have to be really careful. I've even heard about artists being signed, like a smaller artist being signed only to be shelved because there is a bigger artist that has a similar sound that they're going to push.
Oh,
They don't
So
want them to
essentially,
compete on the
yeah,
market.
we got to get you out the way, and they even can steal your ideas at that point because they own, like you said, your music, your likeliness, your masters, your publishing, and you can't even put anything out. You can't leave that label. You can't go somewhere else and have a better opportunity. And I think that is unfortunately what a lot of artists sign for. And I think that's like the worst thing about the music industry is that it's a young person's game for the most part. But young people are the ones that can be so easily taken advantage of because they don't have money. They may come from a struggling background to where it's like, if a record label reaches out and finds them and says, "Hey, I'm going to give you an advance for $1 million," that sounds like unlimited money
funds,
to a person that's 21 or 22, and they don't understand the implications of having to pay that money back. They don't understand not being able to pay that money back. They don't understand not being able to even release music because of politics or just because this person said so. I signed you, but no, I don't want you to put anything out, or actually I want you to change your whole image.
They'll do that as well.
That too.
And I think it is important to maintain your integrity as an artist. Like we were talking about artists having a persona versus being who they are. So I do think that an artist alter ego, or who you are versus a regular person versus your artist persona, I think that's a part of you. I think it's a more proclaimed part that you're putting out. But if you sign and that person says, "Well, hey, I want you to make more music like this. I want you to really lean into this aspect." So like a Sexy Red is signed and they're saying, "Okay, yeah, that feel good stuff you may sounded good, but let's get some more of that ratchet shit." You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think as an artist, now you're in a position where you have to say, "Is that who I am?" But I don't think you have a choice. Once you sign that paperwork, now they tell you who you are.
If you look up some blogs, there are artists that complain about songs that they wrote for themselves that they wanted to release as them, and the songs were taken and given to other artists. So there are in some instances where those contracts have in language such as work for hire. So that means that because you signed that contract that says work for hire, anything that you create while underneath that contractual agreement can be distributed to any other artist that they feel has a stronger fan base, stronger fan appeal, or a sound that could bust the record better than that person. Like, for example, SZA had a record that she really loved that she wanted to release for SZA, and her label took it and gave it to Rihanna.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So
that's terrible.
BB Rexa too.
BB Rexa had it happen to her.
So then, do they get a credit at least?
Yeah, they'll get some writing
credits. Though
Yeah.
It really depends, because Ray is a perfect example of that. The girl who says the Oscar-winning Tears song. I don't know if you've heard of her.
Cry.
Okay.
She said that some of the songs she has written for certain artists that she was supposed to get a credit, and sometimes they did not give her a credit because of the work for hire contract. And that's why, that's why I said, and Ebony said the same. Well, Micah said the same thing of knowing your contracts, knowing what you sign, knowing what you get into, and knowing the proper distributions if you're going to be signed towards those things, the right publishing where you can own most of your publishing, own most of your master stuff, because that's the way you should end up being. Protect yourself at all times. And there is money out in the music industry. It's just you have to read, know your business, research, and even sign up for certain things like your PRO or other stuff like that.
I think a lot of artists, when it comes to getting signed for their first major label deal, they're afraid to negotiate.
Yeah.
You have the right to negotiate and redline a contract.
Yeah.
And just so people know, my mother does contracts for a living.
Yeah.
So that's how I actually got out of my first bad record deal.
Yeah. Okay.
Was that I signed the contract. She read it over. She was like, you ain't signing this. And she basically threw it. She thought it was a joke. And because I was so young at the time, I felt like, you old, you out of style, you trying to prohibit me from going after my dreams. You don't think music is a real career. This is just something that you feel like is a waste of my time and you want me to go more corporate. That's how I was thinking, being a younger person. But she was literally looking at the splits on the contract and what they were asking to own. And she was like, absolutely not. Yeah. And at the time, I kept going to the studio to go record new music, and they were like, "Hey, babes, if you want to keep using the studio, we need to have you on paper because you can't just continue to use this space.
Yeah,
because this is for the record label and the artist." So I was like, "Oh well, I left the contract at home, knowing my mom tore it up."
Yeah.
They bring out a next one, like, don't worry, we have a copy right here. So then they were like, just lean right here against the wall and sign it. So I just basically took any pen and leaned against the wall and signed the contract and give it back to him because I wanted to go back to what I was doing. It was a 5-year recording contract agreement for, I believe, like 4 albums. They didn't even give me any sign-on bonus or any signing money. First red flag right there. So they didn't even have the budget to invest in what they wanted me to do. They wanted to own my name, image, and likeliness was not in that contract, but they did want to own over 50% of my publishing, and they did want to own a lot of my masters. And that's what I should not.
Well, I do want to say this though. So, and I do want to get to some other topics. So I'm gonna just say this really quickly. I do think that, I know that there are bad deals where the artist gets, screwed over essentially. But the record label is putting a lot into the artist in certain situations. So what you're telling me, it sounds like you were getting free studio time.
So
even with them not giving you a sign-on bonus, that studio time is pretty valuable.
It wasn't even a studio, to be honestly.
Oh,
it was like a half-built situation in a warehouse that was very dilapidated and barely standing, and it was just like the minimal equipment there. They were supposed to be providing me studio sessions in a state of an art that was in the contract,
state of the art recording
studio with the actual engineer. Ever since I was there, they literally only took me to a recording studio one time. And the studio that I went, this is another thing that's very important for artists. Go to studios that has an engineer that masters in the type of genre of music that you're making.
Yes.
So I had made this song, like one of my first songs I ever wrote. It was called In Love with the DJ.
Okay.
And it was like my swag, right? Because remember, swag was like a big thing back then. So I was like, my swag, right? Game time. I keep the clubs popping. Like that's how like it started off. So I'm in this studio, and this guy is like, "Are you ready to listen to like some type of direction? Is that okay?" And I'm like so easygoing. I'm like in the booth, like, "Yeah, what do you want me to do?" And the guy's like, for the beginning line, he's like, "Can we get you to say, my swag's right, game, so I keep the clubs popping," like that. And I'm like,
you don't even know what type of sound I'm going for. Yeah, you have no idea what sound. Yeah.
And I did it. So I have this horrible demo in my archives with me sounding.
They tried to bring her to a video too, and she said no.
Like sounding like that. Horrible. No, that's not my brand. That's not my image. That's not who I am as a person. I am a Afro-Caribbean Latina girl. Why am I singing like that?
Yeah.
Why you got me singing? Why am I agreeing to sing like that? You know what I'm saying? So none of that made sense. Like why
this heavy makeup on her? They put her this tutu.
Oh my gosh, that's the photo shoot was horrid. Heavy black long wig, looking like The Grudge.
No.
Then they gave me this heavy black charcoal, black like cut crease that went like all the way up and winged out. Like you remember when Beyonce went through that diva era where she had like the Sasha Fierce? They tried to give me that.
They tried to give her that. They tried to remake Disturbia in the wrong way.
And then this belt around my waist with these sequin leggings and these like 6-inch heels. Horrible. It was a hot mess.
On a positive note, if you do get with a proper label, even if you are independent, you can get really good deals where it could be a co-publishing or a distribution deal.
They don't have
or other stuff like that. They don't have to own none of your stuff. You can still stay independent.
You will make so much more money on that arrangement.
Yeah.
And you can
And
also
on your
put in your
merchandise and
contract to
stuff.
own your own image and likeliness, and that you guys could amicably agree to direction, creative direction, or that you reserve the right to reserve all creative direction.
Yes.
Okay.
So those things can be negotiated. I think
Yeah.
people just get so intimidated by these big names because they see the roster of the artists that they
and
bust.
even with your endorsements, you can even have that like secured where they don't have nothing to touch it to, and they can do more of a management thing like a Rock Nation. So it just depends on it. But if you know your business, and that's why I highly recommend. That's why I wanted to music business, because after seeing that,
that was
I was told from her and my other engineers, because I had the more experience from her, to go to professional studios all my life. So I've always went to Soundscape Studios. Shout out to Michael Colored and Jabari Rayford and Boathouse. You know who you are. Also, Classic Studios, Chris Classic. Shout out to you too. From those people, they always were protective to say, "Hey, this is what you want to do. Go to these colleges. Go and learn these things. Listen to these podcasts. Learn about this thing, so that you're protecting yourself at all times, so that you don't sign a bad deal." Because we've even had some friends that did not sign such a good deal because they felt like, oh, this is a great opportunity. I'm going to make it and I'm going to do the right things. And they never challenge the things. And again, my mom did the same thing and said, don't sign that. And they said, you don't.
They just
wanted
the money.
They just want
the
money.
You're not, a label's not just giving you free money.
It's a bank. You owe them. So it's an advance.
I think a lot of people feel like that getting signed means that you made it. And I think that it's really hard to, it's an emotional thing. And especially when we're talking about artists, I mean, I think that you guys have, you guys are really coming from, I don't say this offensively, you guys are really fortunate to come from such a place of privilege. Not only to be trained musically, professionally trained musically, but to have your mom who knows contracts. So y'all are really, really, really in a unique and a really beneficial position, whereas most people don't have any of that. So it's more so like, I'm an artist, I'm creative, and that's all I care about. I just care about making music. I just care about how I feel.
I do
versus somebody coming and saying, hey, I like what you got going. You know what I mean? Like if somebody comes to an artist and say, I like what you got going on, that's all you want to hear. I like what you got going on and I want to invest in you. Here, I'm gonna give you $50,000, and that's on the low end, but $50,000, and I'm gonna take care of all your studio time. I just need you to sign here. I think most people, especially if I'm working at a job that only pays $10 an hour, I'm only working there because I just got to pay my bills while I'm trying to do this thing. Most people are gonna take the $50,000. Period. They're gonna sign, and whatever happens 10 years from now, we'll figure that out. But I need this $50K today. So I think that what you guys are saying is so important. And I think nowadays, especially, artists can take much more of the control into their own hands because we have so many resources online that teach you how to get those distribution deals versus going for it. Especially if you have the ability to build a fan base on your own, I think you really almost don't need a record label.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
You can do everything completely independently. And I will add on to what you said. It is an absolute privilege to be able to have not one but two parents that were very legally trained.
Yeah.
Being able to watch my mom do very high level contracts with the CEO and VPs of any company that she's ever worked with on director level as a minority woman, and being able to get that insight and learn that corporate jargon from her was like, I'm a whole nother different person as an adult, because I was being able to see that firsthand and get that learning experience. Even with my father, him being born in a third world country, he was a bookworm. My father was a person that collected every single book that you could ever imagine. Like, he would build his own libraries, and he went back to school to further his education in law. So I had two very legally trained people and around me and our entire lives. And my dad would be the type of person, like, he would read a piece of paper. He'd be like, don't sign that. Don't sign that. That's what you're worth. That's what you're worth. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm worth. He's like, you should be getting way much more money for that. Like, he would tell you, like, that number is an insult. What is this?
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
so he was very at one point hands on with managing us and being like involved, like where we were going around Belize to different radio station, TV station,
Yeah,
stages. Like my dad would be like running around
that's what's
with
up.
us, or
That's
taking
amazing.
us to Mexico, or taking us to Guatemala and things like that. Like we would get in a vehicle, pack up everything, and drive.
Yeah, that's what's up.
That's
and be
why
gone.
I second with being privileged, because there's some people who just sign off on that and they don't know anything and they're green, like you said. So one of those things. And then there's other people who had parents or people like that. Like Beyonce is a perfect example. Chance the Rapper is a perfect example that had parents that could show them and their siblings how to navigate through the industry the right way.
Yeah.
Also, even then, like there's other bigger artists that learned from a younger age, like a Rihanna, to be as a beast underneath a Jay-Z as a mentor.
Yeah.
So even though, yes, her parents was inside Barbados, she still had a aunt or a friend that knew a friend of a friend that signed her to help her get that debut of knowing the right contracts and stuff to do.
Yeah.
Because there's other artists that say like MC Hammer, I'm sorry to say it, that ended up signing something and being broken, having an IOU, and now they don't know where that money went. So
or even an artist like I Love McConan, with the whole situation with Drake, where Drake signed him and essentially immediately shelved him. And he cannot put out any music.
There's another artist that's also going through that, but he got out of it as well. His name is Russ, and he's now independent.
Oh, yeah,
and now
yeah.
he's doing
Love
great
Russ.
things as well. And I feel like for that, like it's just a beautiful thing, because once you have the internet. Back then, we only had books where they had the music industry book,
or you have to know somebody that went through something.
I buy a lot of books all the time, or I listen
absolutely
about music
stuff.
industry marketing,
or
anything
Google.
you can imagine. Like
Google
I
or YouTube.
and I will watch videos. Like I study a lot. And I think a lot of people act like to pick up a book because, oh, you out of style. No, you're not. Reading will never be out of style.
And if
learning will never
if
be
you
out
can't
of style.
read, they have audiobooks that can also read it for you, because there is AI that will read it for you to understand. And if you don't know the language terms, they have AI and Google to tell you what the definitions are.
It's no excuse nowadays. But speaking of horrible deals and horrible music industry business people, let's talk about really quick the Diddy case. I definitely want to know what you guys are thinking about, what's going on, as far as, you know, what do y'all think about the case, first and foremost, just on a general level?
So growing up and seeing somebody who was such a prominent figure in the Black entertainment industry, seeing even what's happening with Russell Simmons is like, all of this is just like mind blowing.
Yeah,
isn't what happened with Dame Dash, Russell Simmons, Diggy Simmons, like seeing all these heavyweight Black entrepreneurs that built these empires, or that they were like the guy. Remember, they used to have Making the Band, and everybody would watch Lorianne with the, you know, the 2 steps, get jiggy with it, like, you know, and everyone's like trying their best.
But even in Making the Band, it's like we look back on these things now that from 20 years ago, and we're like, dang, that was kind of crazy. Like when he got so angry that he's like cut the cameras, he's throwing chairs. And it's like, well, that's not anger, that's passion. But looking back on it, it's like, that's a hostile work environment. You know what I'm saying? Or, but what do y'all think is going to happen in this case? Do y'all think that Diddy is going to go to prison? Do y'all think that a Black man is being railroaded? What do y'all think?
I think that I feel sorry for the victims. Anybody who was a victim of any type of manipulation, narcissism,
absolutely,
physical abuse, mental abuse, verbal abuse, blackmailed or bullied into doing something that they did or did not want to do, or at the time was just young and impressionable and naive. I truly feel sorry for you. And I hope that you find the right team to help you get the proper healing and therapy that you need to continue on with the rest of your natural life.
Absolutely.
And not to break a spirit.
I think anyone who was put in a position of power and has abused that, you know, just like with reality TV shows, we cannot clip down what you didn't give us. So if he wasn't out here doing these things, it wouldn't be so much accusers to point the finger at him back. Because just like he is a prevalent person in the music industry, there are so many other prevalent figures that have been in the industry for years that are also Black men, that are some of the top paid actors or producers or directors that don't have a finger pointed at their back.
Yeah.
So I think that there are some people that when they get in a position of fame, power, money, influence, they take complete advantage of that, and they like to play these small pots in circles where they're puppet mastering all these different groups of people because of the power that they feel that they have. So I don't think anyone should abuse their power or their influence. And if it's meant for him to go to jail and there's substantial evidence, then he will be sitting in jail. You know, that's he will be where God feels that is a fair outcome for him to be. Only him and God know what he was truly doing and the people that was participating. So
that was a really good politically correct media trained answer. What are you thinking?
I was gonna say like the same, like honestly, for that money only enhances a person's personality.
I agree with that.
And what they're gonna do and their real intentions, and only that person knows what their real intentions is for doing, if it's for the good or if it's for the worse, or if they wanna please the people just for so long until they switch like a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
Again, also I second with that. I hope that the victims or anybody that was preyed on or even had emotional, mental, physical abuse, even from the people who auditioned, for example, like I never knew that Miguel auditioned. I hope that nothing strange happened to any of those people either. And if they did, that they didn't have their spirits broken where they never want to make music again or pursue and doing something because it's just so dark or heavy for them. I hope that they still have a light in their heart to do what they want to do. But again, if you do have concrete evidence of something that you were doing off of bad intentions and getting off on it to try to blackball somebody or to do it out of fear, fear's never going to win. It's always going to be a double-edged sword, and it's always going to bring something into the light. And whatever you do, it's going to come to the light.
There is one thing that
and if you're going to do that, lay in bed
rent free in my mind
and make it.
There is a clip of Diddy and Justin Bieber together. And people have been recirculating these clips because they are trying to find the connections between, you know, these Easter eggs in these music videos and like this case. They're trying to find the parallels.
Yeah.
So the Yummy video, when you see Justin Bieber's face on the plate and it says Yummy and it's him as a child, it's like, okay, what are you trying to say? What is the meaning of all this? Then you see a lot of elderly people around the table.
Yes.
And then they're all eating. The food looks disgusting personally, but I guess it's supposed to be vintage, like retro kind of like food or whatever. And then they're dancing on the tables. And then you see like a bunch of other younger people dancing on other tables. And when you first come into the space, there's like a younger group of people playing instruments and stuff like that. So it's just like, what were you really trying to tell us without telling us visually through this video? What is the meaning of the song and the lyrics?
I'm gonna say this though. So this case, Diddy's case to me has become extremely salacious. I think that, you know, being a Black American specifically, and, you know, watching a person that is iconic like Diddy has made himself, you know, I think that he does kind of transcend, in a sense, race and or genre. I think that he's such a big name that white people know him. Like it's similar to Snoop Dogg, to where he just is a big name. I think that what I grew up hearing about Diddy was always like, oh, he had something to do with Tupac's death.
Yeah, that was.
He had something to do with Biggie's death. Oh, he is just essentially like just a dark person. Like it seems like. So with this case, I am expecting there to be clear-cut evidence or charges of murder, assault. Honestly, wouldn't have been surprised if there was some type of rape charge, or even something involving dealing with a minor. And for me, it's like, it's almost like none of that is at the forefront of these charges. You know, there are 3 charges that he's facing, which is the racketeering, which the racketeering does carry a lot of different things under that umbrella, which include bribery, arson, intimidation, evidence tampering, witness tampering, things like that. But then the second charge, which is pretty much the focal point of the whole case, is sex trafficking of victim 1, who was Cassie. And then the third charge is going to be transportation with the intention of prostitution. And for me, it seems like the case is almost like just drama. Like it's just about a relationship going bad. And don't get me wrong, he clearly abused this girl.
Yeah.
At least physically. You know what I mean? I'm sure there was emotional manipulation. I'm sure there was financial abuse in some cases as well. But it's almost like this case is honestly not good enough for me. And I say not good enough just because I'm like, I've heard so many terrible things about Diddy. I expected there to be something a bit more clear cut to show that this person is an unstoppable, uncontrollable monster that uses his resources and his funds to control all these things. And I mean, even they found guns in his home with scratched off serial numbers and things like that. And
I didn't know that.
yeah, but there's still no charge of like aggravated assault. There's no charge of, like I said, murder. So I'm just like, on one hand, I do think that he's done a lot of things. I think that he has done a lot of terrible things to people, but I'm not sure if I see that being presented in this case in a way that will put him in prison or in a way that supports everything we've thought about him over the years. So I feel like the case is, I'm just not. It feels like it's more of a humiliation ritual on him and on Cassie, unfortunately, because she put out her civil suit and she was awarded, or he paid her $20 million, and I think obviously,
very handsomely too.
Yeah, I think obviously she deserved every penny. And I'm not saying that money erases abuse. I'm not saying that at all. Yeah. But what I am saying is that I don't know if someone's going to go to jail for 30 years for an abusive relationship. And Cassie is now having to get on the stand and talk about these things that people are going to have an opinion about. I'm not going to necessarily say they're horrible or nasty, because it's what she went through, it's what she did. But to have to get on the stand, and now not only does your husband hear these things that he may not have known the specific details of, but now his family, his mom and his siblings and his grandparents or whoever now hears these things too. And no matter what, they probably look at you slightly different. Now they're seeing these text messages of you saying certain things, and it's just like, okay, this is humiliating.
Well, if we compare his case, like the possible outcome, to what has happened with R. Kelly, then
I think the R. Kelly case is completely different. And because it is a clear-cut case of kidnapping, it is a clear-cut case of holding these women hostage. It is a clear-cut case of abuse of minors. It is a clear-cut case where evidence has presented that you forged government documents, and that being Aaliyah's birth certificate. So with R. Kelly's case, it was open and shut, and there was a case that came beforehand that he beat that was a forewarning to him that he completely ignored. I think with Diddy, I think for me, I feel like I've heard so much urban lore or urban legend about him. I was expecting there to be something a bit more clear cut where I can look at it and say, oh yeah, they got your ass now. But it's a bit hard for me to say, okay, I did see the video of you beating up your girlfriend. That is wrong. But we're not trying a domestic violence case. So that's kind of the issue to me. And I think it's really hard to say, and I'm gonna say this, and I know that this is gonna be tricky. This is obviously not a popular opinion. I think that it's almost a further insult to Cassie to constantly be like, well, I was young, I didn't know, or to say I only did that because I thought it was going to make him happy. I think there's a difference between saying, and y'all can definitely give me your honest opinion on me even saying this. I think there's a difference in saying I was forced to do something and I did it to make this person happy. And I'm not saying that once again, I'm not saying she wasn't abused. So I want that to be very clear. She was definitely clearly abused. But I think that in a relationship, you can be in an abusive relationship and two people are playing their roles in that relationship. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that anybody should be abused, but there are people in abusive relationships that want to be in an abusive relationship. And I hope that doesn't sound like I'm not victim blaming. But what I'm saying is, to me, it's hard to send somebody to prison and convict them, because where does it end in that case? And I'm not saying, like I said, that Diddy doesn't deserve to be in prison for something, because I actually thought this was going to be, everything was going to be very clearly laid out to where it was going to be like, shit, open and shut, lock his ass up. Mm-hmm. But to me, I'm watching this like, okay, where does it end? It's a scary thought to think someone can go to prison for being in a bad relationship. I think is the scary part. Mm-hmm. And then even his personal assistant saying things like, well, yeah, my job was to go get these drugs. My job was to go do XYZ. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was doing the drugs too, but only because I knew that that's what Diddy wanted me to do. Or, yeah, I was doing XYZ too, but mm-hmm. you know, when you're doing illegal things, that's a choice that you're making. Your job can't make you do some illegal shit. Yeah, and you can't do some shit, or even the shit where, like, you know, they're calling sex workers. Yeah. And I don't know who made who do what. So when it's Cassie is calling a sex worker, the sex worker only has communication with Cassie. Mm-hmm. They only get the money from Cassie. It's really hard for me to be like, well, clearly he gave her the money, mm-hmm. or clearly he wanted her to call the sex worker, or even for her to say, well, I only called the sex worker because he wanted me to. I don't know that. Mm-hmm. And I think what's scary is, as a Black person, we can be charged for anything and thrown under the bus for anything. So it's kind of like, okay, now I have to fear like somebody coming back 20 years from now and being like, well, 10 years ago, you treated me really poorly. Yeah. So, not that I'm abusing anybody,
the only
but
thing that I could kind of reference to rationalize like the charges, especially on the prostitution and the what was it, prostitution and
like Epstein, or kind of like how they have.
Well, he did have his own island they call Star Island, which is off and then some Epstein stuff, but we'll get into that on another
time. The transportation of prostitution. I think they will. I think they have proven that one.
So when you watch these reality TV shows that are like cops and stuff like that, they often have a lure to bring a gentleman caller or whoever into a hotel room. And then they have the police officer hiding outside the door, the room next door that's connected, or in the bathroom or something like that. They haven't even touched the person yet. And then it's the intent. And then they're arresting the person on intent to, you know, prostitute or sell their body or whatever else like that. And sometimes those charges stick. It's mm-hmm. not just like they can say, how you didn't know we were going to bring out a pack of cards and play Uno or dominoes or whatever. They don't mm-hmm. know that, but they brought them to the room. Hey, baby, what's going on? You know, get comfortable, sit in the bed. I'm going to the bathroom, come right back. And then the police is like, you're under arrest for you. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That happens a lot in those episodes. And then I see other arguments online where people are saying things like, what's the difference between him and Hugh Hefner, or people that are in the adult film industry and this and that and blah, 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 blah. So I don't really know a lot about the adult film industry, but most people that are in it will argue, we take frequent drug tests. We are under contractual agreement. This is for entertainment purposes. This is to film and distribute works within the film industry. So
I don't know nothing.
You know, I don't know if Cassie herself was paid for the freak offs. I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. We weren't there. So, and somebody be like, girl, why did you say that? But we don't know.
We don't know.
She was paying, the escorts were paid. They were financially compensated for doing what they did. How do we not know that she too was also compensated? That has not been revealed as of yet, you know.
And we don't know if even then, like Sally's saying, this might sound so unpopular about it, from the freak offs, that they were sending those to certain magazines or stuff too, for them to get paid for that too.
I mean, look what happened with Mimi Faust and the other guy. They said that they lost the tape, but they sold that tape.
They sold it. That's what I was gonna say. They were selling it for monetary value.
We haven't seen anything about Cassie being.
I mean, I don't think she was necessarily paid. I think that my opinion is Cassie was a young woman that wanted to be in the music industry.
Mhm.
And I think safe to say by any means necessary. And I
Mhm.
think sometimes as young people, we do get ourselves in situations that we aren't equipped to handle, or that we didn't understand what we were getting ourselves into. And I think that that is what happened. I think that her intention was to be with Diddy. I think her intention was to be with this guy that I know is larger than life. That,
Mhm.
you know, like I said, no matter whether you do rap or R&B or you
Or
black,
any
white, or
other
whatever,
industry,
you
yeah.
knew who Diddy was. Even in
Mhm.
2005, Diddy was Diddy.
Mhm.
So I think that she did see an opportunity to be affiliated with a man that could put her on musically, or that has unlimited resources in the music industry,
Mhm.
and to be with a millionaire that is gonna spend money. And you know, I'm sure that he was using his money and his resources to be impressive to her. And you know, I think that they both had ulterior motives.
Mhm.
I think that she did not expect or deserve to be abused.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I
I don't think
also
she
will say, I
deserved
think
that.
that nobody gets into any relationship expecting
To be abused,
to be
yeah.
To be
abused. I think
abused,
that,
yeah.
um, I think for me, another part that gets scary is to constantly say, well, she wasn't in control. He was in control of her everything. She didn't make a choice. She did everything because he told her to. Okay, well, if we're at a point where we're saying a 21-year-old woman does not have the ability to intelligently choose her own partner, then that's why women's rights are constantly getting taken away.
Mhm.
So, and I think it sounds fucked up the way I'm saying it, but what I'm saying is, to me, it's okay to say I made a choice and I made a bad choice. Once again, I'm not saying that she deserved anything that she didn't want to do. I'm
Mhm.
not saying that. What I'm saying is, I think it is okay to say I took drugs because I wanted to. I did the freak offs sometimes because I wanted to, because the text messages reflect that. So I think it's
Yeah.
scary to get on the stand and say everything I did was because he forced me to, when there is what looks like evidence saying the contrary. And to say, you know, women are intelligent. We are our own people. We have our own brains. We have the right to do whatever a man can do. But you can't come back then and say, well, I wasn't I wasn't able to make my own decisions because I was only 21, I was only 22. It's 21 and 22-year-olds that have 5 kids and a family to raise, and they have to make those hard decisions. And I think it sounds like I'm victim blaming, but I'm not. But I think it's just dangerous to say, well, she had no control. She could not possibly make a decision for herself. And in that case, we need to go back to arranged marriages then.
I think
I,
maturity is a case by case situation.
It is,
Um,
but
mhm.
if you're going to, and the reason I say I think she got into a situation that was, she got in over her head, is
Mhm.
because she was already dating an older man. She was already
Mhm.
dating a person that was 10 years older than her,
yeah.
that was in the music industry, that was
That's
doing a lot for her musically. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with a young woman wanting to be with somebody that can
yeah.
put her in position. But I think it's so important to also say, listen, I loved a lot of the things, but I didn't love this. And I don't
Yeah.
know if they're going to prove that she was trafficked. I think that's my whole thing. This all feels like a waste of time. Like,
Mm.
what are we doing?
I
Like,
think
did he abuse her? Yes. But is he on trial for domestic violence? No. You're saying that he trafficked her. And I think that's a dangerous, slippery slope,
I
because traffic is such a dangerous and you know.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I think that it's like such a slippery slope. That's gonna say as well because it is half of trafficking, and then the other half is that it is influence too. Because you're having impressionable people. Is that how
Mhm.
you say the
Mhm.
word?
Mm-hmm.
That's around you of money, of a caliber, of these type of things. So you're like, okay, I'm in the industry. I'm getting somewhere. I'm doing something. I'm young. I'm 21. I'm 22. I'm that girl. Everybody's putting me on BT. They're putting me on the Met Gala. They're putting me
But
on the
so
stuff.
do we then say, okay, if you're 21, you can't be around older people because you are not old enough to not be impressionable. You're not old enough to make your own decisions. You need your
No,
parents to, you need to bring in your parents if you want to sign a contract, because 10 years from now, you can't say, well, I didn't know what I was doing. I was 21. I didn't know, I was too young.
no, that's what I'm getting to. So
Okay.
that's just gonna say is that for people like that, when they're seeing warning signs of a person, even though they don't know that's going with that, if other people are giving you notes about that, heed to those warnings, pay attention to what's going on. But if you're gonna say that you were forced to do something, also just make sure that if there is drugs and stuff like that, if you're not a person that does this stuff and you're not with that, and they try and bring that to you, just make sure that it's recorded or have something where it's a witness or somebody, just to have concrete evidence, so that if that person says, "Oh, you can't believe," they can say, "Actually, I was on that day and you did put something in that person's drink. Actually, I did see that person, because they wasn't like that, started acting funny." But if they say, "Today I'm going to take these drugs because I want to do something different,"
I just think
you
it's
can't.
a certain level of intimidation, because
Yes,
like
it's
we
gonna
can
say
sit
it's
here and
a
ask
energy.
ourselves, why did grown ass people walk across the Brooklyn Bridge for cheesecake?
Cheesecake,
yeah, they're grown.
I think, like
and
I
they
said,
did it, but it was the level of intimidation.
But wait,
and lifestyle.
really quick, is it intimidation or is it I want this opportunity so bad that I'm willing to do whatever it is that you're asking? Because
I think it's both. I think that Puff has always had like a very intense
but okay,
personality.
intimidating. But could you have left and went home?
I think,
and making the band specifically, did you have to walk across the Brooklyn Bridge, or could you have said, "Fuck that shit, I'm going home"?
Some of them did. I think it was like one or two of them that did say "F this," and they literally went home. And the rest of them,
they made
feeling like
the
they
choice
were never
to walk
going
across
to
the
have
bridge.
this opportunity again, or wanted to stay in it to see how far it would go. The opportunity, they walked and they came back, and then some of it I feel was just like hype for TV. Like,
yeah,
just,
but I heard that also, like, it was something like that too with Aubrey O'Day, and that she did argue with him, say, "Get me out of this contract. I don't want to be here," and then he was like, "No, you're staying here."
Well, I mean, you can't just get out of a contract.
And like, she was just like, "Hey, I want to be about it. I don't want to be in making the band anymore, even though you want me to be as a lead singer."
There were other women.
They said that she was like trying to force her to stay
around Diddy's camp, in a separate girl group. I'm not going to name the group, but in a separate girl group that came out years later to news outlets and accused that girl group of being basically a prostitution ring.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So I would be interested in seeing if that owner of that group will be brought up on any type of crazy charges, or if that comes to the forefront, because I do feel like this kind of knocked the door open, whether he's brought up on charges or not, for a industry Me Too movement, for like a bunch of people in the industry to come forward to speak out against directors, publishers, publicists, agents, whoever they may be, handlers, to be exposed for what they're doing.
And I mean, that's the type of stuff that I would be more interested in, where it is clear cut. Because the way I look at it is this: I could let's say I didn't leave my job and I stayed there, and I had to, and this is on a much lower level, so I'm acknowledging that. But what I'm saying is, I stay at my job and I hate it every day. It fucks with my mental. But that's the job I choose to go to every day to make my money. And then I get to the end of my life and I'm like, man, I wish I would have put more into the Shantae show. Am I entitled then to go back and sue, the company that I worked for years, because I'm like, hey, I hated making 100 phone calls every day. That really messed with my mental health. And I hated going into those meetings. I hated when you told me that I wasn't doing good enough. That really messed with me.
So I think,
as opposed to, and I'm saying, oh well, I was forced to do that because I needed that money, because I wanted to get promoted to management, because I wanted to be at the top of the company. And so now at the end of it, I'm like, it wasn't really worth it, and I felt like y'all made me do some things I didn't want to do, but I did what I was told to do for the opportunity that I wanted. So, and that's what I'm saying, like, how far does it go when you, and I'm not even necessarily talking about, I'm definitely not even talking about Cassie. I'm just saying, like, when someone says, well, hey, this is what you got to do to get here. And when you say, okay, I'll do it. How far or how often can you go back and say, I didn't really want to do that? I mean, I know I did it because you wanted me to, but I didn't want to.
A lot of women do a lot of crazy things to hang on to different men, whether that's having a child or even just people.
Yeah, and I'm saying just people, because we're talking about the people that walked across the Brooklyn Bridge when they could have said no. Like, is it abusive? Is it an abuse of Diddy's power? Sure. But if you say, I want to be signed to your record label, and I say, well, hey, you got to walk 15 miles to go get me a piece of cheesecake, that's on me to say, fuck you. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Or to say, oh, well, I definitely don't want to, but if that's what I got to do, then
Yeah. And if like I said, if you're impressionable or intimidated, well, I only want to do it, of course, because there are people that are intimidated.
yeah, no, absolutely,
They
absolutely.
really do have like secret people, like little stick saying you're gonna do this job, like or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that.
that's very different. I
Like
really,
thing like
yeah,
in the corner in the back, like
yeah. When somebody is right up in your face and saying,
yeah,
"No, you're gonna do
you're
it,"
going to do it.
that is totally different.
That does happen, but also there is like a, I don't want to say passive aggressive too type of sense, because they feel like, oh my God, kind of like Devil Wears Prada. Perfect example. Miranda Priestley made the Emily assistant feel like, if you don't get my stuff in time, then you will be fired and blackballed and exiled.
And Diddy did have that power,
and he did have that power
at that time.
at that time.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
about today,
I feel
but at
like
that time,
with Cassie and other people at that time, they feel like, oh, I don't want to have a Miranda Priestley Devil Wears Prada moment where I'm blackballed and I'm never able to get in ever again.
Yeah.
So I think that was the amount of fear that they had. And
absolutely.
It was just like, if I have a whistleblower moment, my career's done.
Yeah.
My family
because he has
members
connections
might
with these huge
take
corporations.
me out, this and that, blah, 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 blah. And
hits,
I think at that time, it's not that she wants to say, what are you going to do, blah, blah, blah. Because I'm a type of person, I'm going to say what's on my mind and I care. Yeah. But at the same time, I have to be smart and think of my family members and my friends, because if somebody's off because they're not getting what they want, they're going to try and take that person out. And allegedly on this case, they said, well, not even allegedly, because actually the artist did come out and say it. Kid Cudi's car did blow up because of her saying something and because of her wanting to be with him. Mm-hmm. So he did say, oh, you like that person? You want to leave? We're going to explode your car now.
Yeah. And so there's so much other allegations now about Kim Porter and
now that's it. But and that's the type of stuff that I'm looking for. Like I want
substantial evidence.
I want substantial evidence of these heinous crimes, because, and once again, I do want to emphasize, I don't believe that an abusive relationship is okay, but regular people go through that on a regular basis. I don't know if you stayed in this abusive relationship because you were so scared to leave, or maybe you thought that's normal. I don't know if your dad beat your mom. Yeah, and once again, I'm not saying that it's okay if it did, but I don't know if the situation was you absolutely could not leave because this motherfucker ruined your life, or if it's because you still wanted that opportunity. And it's hard, because even after they broke up, even after she got with her new man, even at one point when she was pregnant with her first kid, he reached out and said, hey, you're going to be a beautiful mom. And she said, hey, let's get together again because I still need closure. I got you. We got to get out of here.
Yeah, but I think
it's very complicated.
I think it is a mixture
and I do want to see, if Diddy has committed so many of the heinous crimes, I do want to see him, go down for those things, but I don't want it to be a case where it has further legal implications on other people.
I would like to see if eventually, if at all, they will, because I'm pretty sure all
right, y'all. Thanks so much for coming to the Shantae Show.
Yes. And we have to come back and do it again.
Yes, we got to keep having these conversations. Yes. I'm sure we're going to keep talking when we leave here. Absolutely. But yes, thank y'all so much.
Yeah, I just hope
thank you so much. And y'all make sure y'all follow Micah at